Okay, we with Rudolph Ottley, one of the many accomplished people from Morvant. Again, this exercise is to prove that Morvant has accomplished people not only for the district of Morvant, but changing the landscape of Trinidad and Tobago as a whole. So, Mr. Ottley, maybe you need to give a little of your background so that people will know your vast knowledge and experience.
First of all, morning, Mr. McGill, and thanks for including me in your list of Morvant luminaries, everyone is here. It's interesting though that even growing up in the whole geographic place called Morvant, where I really born in Chinapoo, we weren't really considered part of Morvant for a number of historic and geographic reasons. As a matter of fact, we growing up in Chinapoo in the 60s and 70s, well, mainly the 60s, we always felt that if we were the wayward, outside, neglected, foreign people of this geographic space. And it showed itself in many ways, especially when it came to sports. When we came to Morvant, the Morvant ground to play a game against a team that is from Morvant, like Eagles or Mary Boys or one of those guys, one of those teams. There's always that rivalry, that intense rivalry between the Morvant-based team and the Chinapoo-based team. As a matter of fact, the perception from Morvant people was that people from Chinapoo, either foreign, the Kayapunians,
I remember that.
They always say they're backward. It's almost like if we like.
And so name is because.
They always seem like if we immigrants in your own land. So that was an interesting kind of dimension, and I attended Morvant EC School, which made things even more challenging. Living in Chinapoo, attending Morvant EC School, have to deal with people like Cuthbert James, Braffett, who was my cousin, Kurt and Curtis Braffett, and
the family?
Yeah, they were my cousin. And they having this Morvant ideology against Chinapoo people. So it was always my challenge to prove to them that despite being perceived as a minority, we could always do better. So on the cricket field, for example, when we played any Morvant team in cricket, it was always my task to make sure I don't get out, but for as long as I could.
And how did that go?
That pretty good. Most times we Chinapoo beat or defeated Morvant in cricket. Most times.
Yeah.
In football might have been a different story, but in cricket we always excelled. Academically, I attended Morvant EC School, and then I won a scholarship to attend Progressive Education Institute on Henry Street in Port of Spain.
Okay.
Then I migrated to Canada in 1970. I spent a decade and about 11 to 12 years in Toronto. During that sojourn up in Toronto, Canada, I really found myself in terms of having to work, having to source my own income, having to spend for myself, having to. I literally grew up on my own, although I was surrounded by a number of family and friends. But it was major. It was critical that I found my own space and pursue the things that were interested in at the time. As a result, I went to York University, where I did my first degree, Bachelor of Arts in Sociology and Latin American and Caribbean Studies. Then I went to the Ontario Teachers Education College and did a Bachelor of Education degree. And the third degree I did was a Master of Science in Education, majored in vocational guidance and counseling from the Niagara University in Niagara Falls, USA. After completing that and having been contented and satisfied living in Toronto, I mean, everything was going pretty good. Enjoying sports with Street Guys Soccer League and players.
A dominant team, no doubt.
The social life was excellent because in those days the black community in Toronto was small. Everyone knew each other. There was a sense of whether you come from Jamaica, Grenada, St. Kitts, or whatever. There's that sense of camaraderie, that Western
Caribbean vibe.
Yeah, that's where we're all in this together. Although on the sporting field, when Jamaica teams play Trinidad teams, there was that intense competitiveness, but all in good fun. And so that was good. I worked a while at the Canadian Manpower and Immigration Center early on. I also worked with the Ontario Etobicoke teachers at Etobicoke College. No, so the Etobicoke Education Facility, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Doing some guidance and counseling. But there was this underlying urge, this underlying drive, this underlying sense of, although I'm in Toronto and Canada, and as I said, enjoying the best of it, there was always that feeling that it wasn't all that it's supposed to be. I always felt that Canada is a great place. I love Canada, but it did not give me that sense of fulfillment, that total sense of being and doing all that I could do. Because I always felt as a migrant in Canada, there were some limitations in terms of my professional aspirations. There were some limitations in terms of my social interaction with different people.
Limitations.
There are some limitations and some certain spheres of my life which I feel, given the fact that I was a migrant and a black migrant in Canada, I would not be able to readily achieve it. I could have achieved it, but I think it would have had to take greater effort. And combined with the weather, which I've never loved. It's one of those defining times and items that have really moved me out of Canada was the weather. And basically because I'm an outdoor person. It used to be heart-rendering to be locked up literally between let's say from September or late October to May the next year.
Mr. Ottley, you seem to be rubbing it in, you know. Yeah, I still have to deal with those other events. Yeah.
You know, that I really had a real challenge with that. I cold weather, as try as I may, try to be involved in sports.
Yes, stuff.
Try to be involved in winter games. I mean, it just didn't. So with that sense of unfulfillment, I applied for a job that was advertised in the Toronto papers for a council position in Trinidad. And I went to the interview in Ottawa, and I got the job to come back as a guidance officer, and part of the arrangement was that it would be for 3 years, and they would assist in bringing down my items, my furniture, whatever. And it was really a motivating factor for me to come back and at least try and experience that dream of living in Trinidad. And with the feeling though that if after 3 years it doesn't work, I always had the option of returning to Canada. But once I settled in, because the first year was challenging in Trinidad, we adjusted to a number of things, the social life, the academic life, the political life, even the family interconnectedness was challenging coming back. But after getting married on my return and decided, well, my wife and I will start a family down here because my daughter was born in Canada in August of 1981. Yeah, and therefore we started from here. And after the 3-year contract was up, and we analyzed everything and went on, it was a decision that it didn't go bad after all. And from that to now, I have remained and continue to strive and became more involved in the cultural sphere. I began judging calypsos, I began writing and researching calypsos.
And you have a calypso tent too?
I have my own calypso tent, the only all-female calypso tent in the world, Divas Calypso
in the world?
International. In the world.
Tent in the world.
That's the only calypso tent, the only all-female calypso tent called the Divas Calypso Cabaret International. It was started in 2004 and we continue up to today. One of the rationales for starting that organization was that in 2003 I did a lecture at UE, Department of Gender Affairs, and the discussion was the lack of information and history on women in calypso. It was almost as if they felt women don't exist in calypso.
You did a book prior to the establishing the tent, right?
Yes, I did. I did a book in 1992 called Women in Calypso.
Okay.
And since that time, I have done 6 other books.
Okay.
One more on Women in Calypso, which is Women in Calypso Part 2, which I published in 2007. And then I did 3 books on men in Calypso, called Calypsonians of Then to Now, Part 1, 2, and 3. They were published in 1995, 98, and 2008. And then I did a book on the history of the review tent, the Calypso review tent, which I published in 2012. And in 2014, I published a book called 100, The History of Vocal Recorded Music in Trinidad. And it was I entitled 100 Years of Vocal Calypso Recording. I did that for Tuco in 2014.
So could we in Mova feel that you still have the heart and toot your horn as this well accomplished? I mean, some of the accomplishments I'm now knowing about, being that we were close when I was in Toronto, but you still have that connection. I know you don't live in Mova right now.
Well, I do the move, according to my church, I do the Mova thing every like twice a month. Where I come to, I go to Chinapoo. Chinapoo, where I have some friends who are still there. I interact with them quite often on the phone, but I make twice a month I make a personal visit. So the Mova will not be ever out of my system. It's difficult now in the context that most of the people who I grew up with and who I knew have either died or migrated in Mova generally. But in Chinapoo, although some of my friends have passed away or migrated, the families there, I am still familiar with them.
Okay.
So I can, I still maintain touch. As a matter of fact, I don't know how this may be, but I have never changed my electoral voting.
Is that right?
I still vote in Chinapoo.
Okay. All right. So, that says it all there, right there.
I've never changed that. I've been here since 81. I came back in 81, so I've been up to last election. I was in Chinapoo in the morning.
Okay.
Then my vote. So that Chinapoo and Mova will always remain close to me and important to me because I've learned a lot from my early experiences in Chinapoo and Mova. It taught me how to survive, how to deal with challenges, interpersonal, how to deal with the concept of you being a minority, and I keep using that word all the time because, again, out of Chinapoo, Mova people always feel you're a minority.
Yeah, I kind of felt there was a stigma there. Not me personally, but because I always grew up kind of different, but then I agree. It was a stigma there.
And it has to do with the fact that the Chinapoo community had a lot of migrants. People from the smaller islands. And interesting enough, we have Chinese and Indians in Chinapoo. As a matter of fact, you go to Chinapoo in summer, a Chinese guy who owns a beehive in the house we used to live in, was his house, a great house.
Relative to Joel Chinapoo?
Yes, and Chinapoo is now the CEO at the Unit Trust Corporation. Okay. That family, so that maybe you can interview him too. Yeah. The Chinapoo dynasty. And we had Indians, we had Chinese, we had the basic African elements, we had Shango, we had Thief, we had steel band, melodic steel band, we had football
melodic, all right.
We had football teams and upsetters. We had.
I think the best that came out of Chinapoo. I'm not aware of the Everton, but I was with Hotspur and these guys. That was upsetters, right? That was the engine.
We have upsetters, Everton, Queensland. We had cricket. So we did everything. We played table tennis a lot by Vince Natter, Brooks. We had a guy from Chinapoo who played for Trinidad in table tennis. And so we were culturally well endowed. Behind the school was our Queen's Park Oval.
Actually, I took a picture yesterday.
It's hard for any team to come up there and beat us. And if they beat us, well, then they had to run out of town.
Why is that? Let's get to that. Why is that?
Because of that loyalty and that sense of belonging, that sense of invincibility we had developed because of the way we were treated. So that especially when Mova team comes to Chinapoo and behind the schools. Now, we already feel that they already treat us as low class. And they only come to win the game. We have to retaliate.
I'll correct it all. You mean Morvant?
Morvant?
Yeah, but I was not that thing.
You mean an individual, but you represent
right.
So that, and people even inherited that. For example, when we had melodic band, the guys, the only way they will come to the band is if they couldn't get into Evernight or senior serenaders or those things.
Okay.
So it was like a rejected band, whereby they can't make the big bands in over. So then they'll come to practice in melody.
Well, it's nice to get the real intricate part of this whole thing, and then I'll get Anthony Street on.
And it will be a different era because he grew up almost 20 years after me. So that he will give you a nice perspective of his experience.
Yeah.
And it may not be as severe then, because I think at that time,
evolution.
Sociology, society has changed, black power has passed through, people have a different sense of unity.
Yeah.
The geography of the very space wasn't as intense.
Because even from abroad, in hearing the updates, to me, I got the feeling that they were the progressive ones, the Everton. It seemed, And once you have national players and stuff, it's progressive ones. So we got to get rid of that stigma. Hopefully, it dissipates. What do you think about the whole overall inactivity? And that's one of the reasons for this. Coming down here, I find Morvant is still almost dormant in terms of activity.
I know for Chinapoo, one of the key people was a guy called Jackie.
Right.
He passed away about 5 years ago. And he used to show, I don't know if he can do it, but there's always night football, cricket, there's always some activity throughout the year that he managed to do it. With his demise, no one has taken up the match. But overall, I think in the north, not only Morvant, but in the north of Trinidad, sport amongst the young black people is not as important as it used to be. And it is reflected, for example, in football. This last secondary school season that ended, the first step through came in the league association. Natural River came first, St. Bernard's came second, and Presentation came first. The first team from north in St. Anthony, they came first. So there seems to be a shift whereby the people, the young blacks, and I'm saying black because the majority of people in football are black. The majority of black men in the northern area seem not so inclined, or maybe not as talented as they used to be in terms of football. Now there's an era when St. Benedict's ruled.
That's right.
But I was in the 60s. But that's a while. But since that time, that has never happened. Whereby you have the 3 top teams in secondary school football league themselves, and this year. So that when you look at that, you look at a lot of in the last 20 years, a lot of these top North footballers in secondary school go from over, like Malik, Belmont, some from QRC. But even Malik is no longer
in the second tier. I understand there's no team from over in the top tier.
You know, so it shows where, and again, when you link that with the crime situation, you can see an obvious connection. The inactivity in sport and the profound experiences in other non-sport activities. So people now engage in other non-sporting things. So that the sport has fallen back. And it shows in the crime figures whereby a lot of the young boys in northern region of Trinidad who are incarcerated come from Bobo or Labrador. And a lot of them...
Is there statistics really to prove that? Because it's a stigma too, eh?
No, that's statistics. It's very clear where the crime situation is. It's very clear. It's more complex. And the information is there. The statistics are there. When they go to the prisons, you can see it.
Get you on the answer that phone in the kitchen from there.
When they go to the prison, you can see it when you're in the critical space and it's full. So, and therefore it shows that in sports, for example, the athletic clubs, the football clubs that have occupied, the cricket clubs that occupy the young black men in northern Trinidad no longer exist in any meaningful way.
Wow. Well, we're looking at the big picture here because my whole focus was on the Morvant, but if there's a whole northern avalanche.
There's northern about back here. And again, it's in sports. QRC, for example, and CIC. They were top sporting teams. whether they were white boys in CIC or black boys in CIC.
Yeah.
Once it's north, one of those teams would have ruled the roost.
Yeah.
And in the last couple of years, St. Anthony's have taken up the mantle.
Yeah.
But again, as I said, just last year, even last year, no one thing. So it's not like a one-off thing. The southern team, South Central team, in young sporting activities, are dominated by them. Are dominated by the non-northern people.
You aware that the MOVA had the first community center in Trinidad, and are you aware that there's a new one? What do you think about that, and how would that help?
Well, I think again it's a different society, a different time. Young boys don't look good at doing any community center.
You don't think it would be valuable?
It would be valuable, but not I think should be the target market. The target market should be the 15-year-old to the 25-year-old. A community center, from my perception, unless they're going to have interactive things like computers, it's not going to serve the purpose. A 15-year-old is not going to leave his home, his computer, and going to throw it up in a building whereby a lot of elderly people will be there.
So what about having tennis or like a library?
The young person in Trinidad, and particularly in North, is technologically based. The iPad, the iPhone, the computer. Unless the community center caters to the modern young person in technology, it's going to be a waste.
Okay.
It must encourage them to continue what they do on their own or at home in the center. Because if they go like the center, okay, for example, the center in Chinapoo, when I go. During the day, we play table tennis. And we may have upsetters, we just have a meeting or so. But the majority of the time was occupied by the older guys who play dominoes and draft late night. And if on a Saturday night you want to play tennis, we couldn't get it. Because for them, that's their time, that's their thing. Alright, so that we almost felt unwanted in the community center, that was for us. And then the older women came and had women meetings. And so it didn't cater for a young person working children. And I'm saying, if that same concept happens in Morvant, the Morvant Community Center, the new one, and there's not a direct, deliberate attempt at incorporating the young people, and I say the 15-year-old, even younger, whereby the things they do are available in the community center, it will be just be another space where we will use back in times parties or show, which is one off. I am talking about a community center which will have internet cafe, which will have where the games, the electronic games, where you can have somebody can go to a study room and work up on the internet and do their school work. So it has to be things that were different from 1960.
Okay.
So the space is, I have no problem with having the space. How they utilize the space, how they compartmentalize the space, because all the things that happen in a building, whereby you have a section,
so they have plenty of room.
A Wi-Fi section, a Wi-Fi section where the young people will most dominate. They have a section where people do handicraft, the more mature people will do handicraft. All that is good. But if they go back to the old concept of community centers to have events that's like dancing, come over, you have the biggest dance. At Ebonites, playing, you know. I could recall my mother and them dressing up all the girls, Lena and all them, with them days used to wear some shoes, some plastic shoes with some high heels. But they feel that was it. And they're going to Morvant Center, the dance with Ebonites and Dutchy Brothers, and that was like, so that. Now you remember Mac Feeble and they playing, Mac Feeble being a very talented musician, playing the piano and to entertain a lot of us linemen there in the center. And it was a place of refuge. But in 2015, going into 2020, you need a community center that is designed for young people. Otherwise it will be a waste of time.
Okay.
Totally designed.
Well, we have the president of the committee, and good thing that he hear you. This is informative to him. And,
because as I said, if you ask any young boy back in here, when the concept of a community center for them, no one doesn't exist. Because they don't know what that is about.
That's right.
They have no idea.
They haven't been into one yet.
They don't know about it. So then you have to tell them, they will ask you, what happened there? What happened in the community center? Well, we have meetings, You have to let them know that when they come to the center, if you want to your iPad, your electronic thing,
Yeah.
you will hook up and link up.
If you don't have one, you might be able to utilize.
Use one there,
Yeah.
you have an internet cafe, you have a homework center. Because one of the things they want to do also is to improve the academic level of the youth in the area.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the youth in the area have attended school but have not learned. And when you leave, you see, you find yourself in a challenging position. You go to a school system where you have not learned. You want to learn, but you do not want to access learning because you're embarrassed.
Yeah.
You're ashamed.
Yeah.
And therefore, you continue now in a life of doing things that are easily accessible to you. Working 10 days, working this, because you have to learn those things. Those are just critical things to do.
Mm.
And therefore, learning becomes to me a critical element in getting the young people out of crime. I'm not going to be a doctor or getting a degree.